I think I have to start this off with Texas because, well, they just continue and continue and continue to disappoint and let everybody down. They just continue to find ways to underperform, lose leads, blow games, and leave their fans rattled. I'm going to be honest. I'm a New York Knicks fan, and so I kind of feel what Texas fans are going through, but at the same time, I don't feel bad for them because I'm a New York Knicks fan in basketball. So, but they go into the locker room at half. They're up 31-24. And they come out in the second half, and they only get 3 points. And Sark can't make any adjustments. He didn't make any adjustments. But I look at it this way: Oklahoma State, you got a great head coach in Mike Gundy, and he probably deserves some of that Jimbo Fisher money that Jimbo's getting out there at Texas A&M. You're ranked 126th in passing defense in the country. You completely stopped probably one of the hottest and most explosive quarterbacks in all of college football this year. Definitely one of the most talked about quarterbacks. You've heard the hype around Ewers. You go out there, you show him up. Spencer Sanders continues to show us that he wants to shut out his doubters, right? And then for Texas, Quinn Ewers, 19 of 49, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And you really have to start asking yourself here if Quinn Ewers is starting to kind of have some of those freshman problems that you would expect to see from a freshman quarterback, not a true freshman, redshirt freshman, as this is his second straight true road game where he's lost. The first one was at Texas Tech. And when you look at their schedule, it doesn't get much easier for here from Texas. I look at it, and I don't think they're going to have the season that they had last year. But next week, you have to go to Kansas State. And one of, I think, the big pain points for Texas in this game was you lost time of possession. Well, Kansas State's going to steal time of possession next week, so you better be ready for that. And then you've got to go play TCU, who, well, I mean, they're still undefeated, and they look like one of the better teams in college football. Then you have to go to Kansas. I expect Jalen Daniels to potentially be back in that game. And if he's back, I think Texas has got a huge problem on their hand. And then you end the season with Baylor, right? So I could see them definitely splitting that 4-game stretch at 2-2. Not the season that Texas fans really wanted. Definitely not the expectations that they had going forward. But, you've got to clean up a little bit of the things going into that 4-game stretch that were a problem in this game. And I think a problem that we saw in the Texas Tech game as well, right? A couple of those things. You lost the turnover battle. Your third down conversions were absolutely atrocious. And then you had 14 penalties in that game. Now, I know people got the conspiracy theories. We're not going to get into that too much. But, Jay, what do you think about Texas? Because it just seems like year after year, they just continue to do this to everybody.
So for the Texas folks out here listening and watching, thank you for tuning in if you decided to join this. And I think the biggest thing with Texas is that it's just bad luck. It feels like everything about them is just awful. No matter what they do, they try to get a coach in who should be a good coach, and he's now a record of 10-10 as the head coach of Texas, 2 years. He's 1-6 on true road games. They can't win on the road. It seems like the team never can get up or be prepared well enough to win road games that I think they probably should have won. Like that Oklahoma State game yesterday, they should have won that game. That should have been theirs. And it was all the mistakes and the undisciplinedness that you would expect out of Texas that keeps – it's like we know this story. We know what's going to happen at the end of this movie. We've watched enough of these movies to know what's going to be the ending, and it just comes perfectly every time. And so there's a lot of things they've got to fix themselves. Now, you can tell that they're working on those things. The line is getting a lot better than it was before. Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson are doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing their jobs. And Quinn, he had his good moments and his bad moments, but he looked awful. I mean, he was, 19 for 49? He couldn't even complete 20 passes in the game. He had like 15 or 20 overthrows in the game. Like, it was just, no matter how hard they tried, they just looked bad in everything they did. And Sark like the crazy part, Jimmy points this out here, 7-win Sark, like he for some reason just can't get over that hump. He can't get over that 7-win hump, it feels like, and this team is probably destined to do the same thing. So I think overall, Texas, with the recruits you've got coming in, hopefully the administration and the boosters allow Sark to take time to actually build this team, because I think the team can be decent. I don't think this is a consistent 10-win team. I think this is probably less of a Mark Richt type team, where like at Georgia when he was there, he was pretty consistent in the 8 to 10 wins. He just couldn't get over certain humps. I don't think that they're that direction, but I think that they can have moments where they'll get 9 wins on a regular basis, but just not get past that threshold of 10 if they let him. Now, the way everybody's talking, I'm already seeing on the messenger boards, they want Urban Meyer like right now. They want Urban Meyer. That as soon as Arch Manning gets there, the boosters are going to push for him to start as a freshman, which will be a terrible idea. I don't see him as being a Trevor Lawrence where you can walk in and just dominate as a freshman, but that's a chance it's going to happen. You piss off Quinn Ewers at that point, he's going to probably transfer again. Hell, you never know where he ends up. Might end up, somewhere just up north. But I can totally see Texas screwing this up because boosters are going to get impatient without realizing that they've run off so many coaches that it's going to take time for them to do this.
Yeah, no, and you kind of mentioned it. Texas is doing the right things. I think when I looked earlier with what they had last year and what they've had so far, I think they're at like 12, 13 offensive linemen between the two classes, which has been a huge pain point for Texas, right? So the fact that they're going out there and they're making that a focus is great. Again, with the edge rusher position, they took like 4 guys last year. I think they're looking to take 2 or 3 this year. I know they're looking to potentially flip Bassick, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole again. We've talked about enough of that for the past week. But Texas is doing the right things on the recruiting trail, but we're not seeing the effects yet on the field. And
it takes time. They're playing 2 freshmen on the line right now on offensive line. So
and they're playing great. So I'm not going to.
Fantastic pickups by Sark and them. And like you said, it's a point of emphasis for them. They're going for the stuff that they struggled at. Like I was talking to Nick over at Nino's Corner on a Ty show not too long ago around the table, and he mentioned that. He said, look, the problem that Texas has always had, especially when playing against Oklahoma, has always been the trenches. Oklahoma has always beat the crap out of us in the trenches. Hence why Beaton-Bowe is one of the best offensive line coaches and recruiters in the country. He's considered up there at least minimum top 5. We have always done a great job of getting the right players in the trenches to win. Now on the defensive side, we're starting to get those guys to match the greatness of our offensive line. But that was always a problem there. And Nino pointed that out. Nick was like, look, we don't get those guys. All these great classes we had, skills positions. We had no linemen. That's what made us suck so bad. And they're finally doing it. And having these 2 freshmen out there cooking like they're doing, that could mean something special in the future. But at the same time, it don't matter if you ain't got the right signal caller and you ain't got the right people around them. Like the skills positions are there, but the signal callers aren't there. I don't know. We'll see what we've already enshrined Quinn Ewers, like literally within like the first couple of weeks. Actually, the Alabama games when everybody shrined him, and now you see everybody turning against him after putting up a 19 for 49 performance. You're gonna get a lot of that. So I think that he's.
I love Quinn Ewers. I love Quinn Ewers, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback for Texas, and I kind of wish OU could have been able to keep him when they were looking at recruiting him. Here's the deal. It is a freshman season for Quinn Ewers, so I would expect Quinn Ewers to go on the road and have the problems that he's having. The issue is it was a 180-degree turn, right? He went from looking like a Heisman-level quarterback to, like he looks like Davis Bevel out there. Okay, maybe not that far, but you know what I'm getting at. He did not look good at all.
Yeah,
definitely
he looked hesitant. He looked like he just didn't have command of things like you would have expected him to have against Oklahoma State, who defensively is 120 something in the nation in pass defense.
126th.
They're bad. They're bad pass defense. They look like it every week, and for some reason nobody figured it out.
No. And, boosters have to stay out of the way over the next couple of years. You have to allow Arch to be able to sit on the bench next year and let Quinn Ewers, because Quinn Ewers will be better next year.
Yeah,
But you have to be able to let Quinn Ewers, if Hudson Card is still there, Hudson Card, and my God, you got to let Malik Murphy play a little bit. But you got to let those guys take the reins next year. Let Arch sit back there, develop a little more, learn the college game before you just throw Arch out throw him out to the wolves. Because if you saw what we saw with Connor Weigman last night, no matter how much talent you have, it doesn't matter how talented you are. Like, you're still going to go out there and struggle as a true freshman quarterback. And so, listen, I think Texas is fine in terms of their talent and what they have because they're going out there and doing the right things. Yep. But with what we're saying with Jimbo, right? Jimbo's had 5 years at Texas A&M. He has completely turned over that roster now at this point. Like, he might have a few stragglers left, but not many. You need to be able to give Sark at least 4 or 5 years to be able to completely get everybody out of the program that's not his and bring all of his guys in. In the next 4 or 5 years, yeah, if Texas is already doing the things and we've seen the flashes that we've seen out of Texas, in the next 4 or 5 years, they could be a championship team. That's saying a lot in Sark's second year.
I just don't see them being a championship caliber team. I see them losing games that they don't need to lose, which has been the Texas formula since right at the championship year they had. Actually, I'd say from 2000 up until last 22 years, we'll say that, except for the 2 years that they actually went to the title game. Outside of that, it was always losing games they shouldn't lose that prevents them from going. And it's just tradition. I mean, hell, they've lost 7 of the last 10 to Oklahoma in the Red River. Like, that tells you something. I mean, this past year, of course, they got the 49-0, which is, you'll see that from Texas fans for the next 20 years, because that's the only thing they can hold on to, because they always get disappointed with everything else their team does.
Yes, and, Texas fans, I get it. You guys are excited to beat Oklahoma 49-0, but you guys also need to take a real look at yourself and go, okay, Oklahoma didn't have a serviceable quarterback out there. And if Dylan Gabriel would have been in that game, I can tell you off 3 drives that we would have had 21 points, right? Easy. But at the bare minimum, we would have scored at least 7 at the bare minimum. And right. Texas fans enjoy it because, if you couldn't beat us this year, I don't know when you would have ever beat us, because this year was just completely atrocious. I do think, in 2 to 3 years, Texas could be that team if Sark is still there. Now, if they switched it up and go to Urban Meyer, I don't know when Texas will ever be good, because you can't keep switching up your coaches this quickly and this fast.
Yeah, and think that it's going to work. Yeah, it don't work that way if you keep swapping guys in and out. And so we'll see what Texas looks like in a couple of years if they give them time.